Senator Erickson. Here. Senator Moy. Here. Senator Schmidt. Here. Senator Edenici. Senator Andrade. Here. Sorry. Senator Bajareno. Senator Landis. Here. Senator Nowinski. Here. Senator Stilwell. Here. Senator Carl. Here. Senator Christensen. Here. Senator Kintan. Senator Pospischel. Here. Senator Chaiti. Here. Senator Dulf.
Here.
Senator Garten. Here. Senator Sampson. Here. Senator Moyne. Senator Mitchell. Here. Senator Ray. Senator Zelmer. Here. Senator Hoysa. Here. Senator Roebuck. Here. Senator Albright. Here. Senator Redinas. Here. President Cronin. Here. Okay. Before we get to the consent agenda, we're going to remove something under travel funding request number 3. And then approve. Any dissent to the agenda? Seeing none, it is now approved. We're going to go on ahead and start with President Open Forum. Hi,
Hi, I'm Elliot with Maverick Adventures. I just want to say thank you for your continued support and allowing us another year to offer pilot programs. I'm excited to announce that we have filled the caving program, which will happen April 13th. That's 2 Saturdays from this Saturday. And we'll be going to Crystal Caves in Spring Valley, Wisconsin. We have 19 people registered, so I'm really excited to offer that, and I'm so excited that people signed up. Additionally, we have 13 of 14 registrants listed for our hiking program, which will happen this Friday at Flanders State Park. I've been out there 3 times already to scout it out, make sure it looks good as far as water and safety and conditions are concerned. It's great. Things are looking awesome, and the weather's actually great, so fingers crossed it holds up. If anybody in here would like to register for the hike, you can go to the Campus Rec webpage. The link is up, and you can register, and we'd love to see you out there. Thank you again for letting me represent you and your constituents.
is there anyone else here for open forum? No, we're going to start with officer reports. President Cronin.
Thank you, Vice President Omar. Okay, so just some things. Amber asked me to remind everyone that we still have tickets for the Breaking Benjamin concert. That's this Friday, so if you would like to attend that, please send her an email. It's being held at the Verizon Center, so it's here in Mankato. Next, we have our April meet and confer next week, so I will be sending around the sign-up sheet if you are interested in attending. It's next Thursday, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then I'll send that around again next week. So if you're not sure, as well, Senator Chaiti asked me to send around a tabling sign-up form. So next Tuesday, we will be doing tabling in Mav Ad for student government. If you saw, we did receive our table banner, like cloth thing. It looks really nice, says student government. Good stuff. So if you have availability, please just write your name and the hours that you are able to attend tabling. Also, everyone should have received an email from me a few days ago regarding the end of the year Senate banquet. So like I mentioned in the email, every spring semester we hold a banquet to recognize and celebrate the work that Senate has done for the term. And I asked people to mark their availability by Friday at noon. So if you haven't done that, I know a lot of you have, so thank you so much. But make sure to fill that out so we just are able to hold a time where as many people can attend as possible. But we do need to get that room reservation in and the food order. So once again, please try and fill that out as soon as possible. As well, a form I had sent out a few weeks ago was that form regarding a bylaw change to the Senate and committee time. And so I had sent that out, as well as I had passed around those quarter third sheet pieces of paper and asked a lot of y'all to either turn back in the physical form to me or to fill out the electronic form. I think I've only received like 10 back or so, but next week I plan on proposing a bylaw change based on what people had believed the best availability would be. So if you would like to put your input on what that bylaw proposal would be, I would really appreciate for you to fill out that form or to turn in the physical copy again. And if you could get that to me before the end of the week on Friday, that would be fantastic. This past weekend, I had a board meeting for Students United. Once again, just reminding everyone that scholarships are open and they're due April 1st. So if any of you are non-graduating students who will be attending a Min-State school again next year, specifically a Students United representative one, please apply for those scholarships. There's a lot of them all of you would be eligible for, but you would have to be attending next year, so you cannot be graduating. As well as I just received the rooming list today for delegates for next weekend, so if you did sign up, either myself or Ray, the campus coordinator, will be sending out that rooming list, and then you will also be hearing from us soon regarding a pre-meet and just how transportation will be on the way to delegates. And with that is my whole report.
Okay. For mine, student affairs, I'm going to be running that meeting afterwards. We're still going to have it. And also senator reports, there's been a lot of moving, so I'll print that out for next week's meeting and I'll have it out to you guys. And so with that, we can start with senator reports. We're going to start with Senator Sampson.
Hello everyone, my name is Annabelle. I am one of the off-campus senators and also Diversity Committee Chair. So my report today is from Diversity Committee and what we are doing. So this semester we are trying to collaborate with Lincoln Community Center to see the possibility of having volunteer hours for international students and domestic students. How the programs we have there, and then how international students and other MSU students could go help. So the former speaker, Nathan, and I met with them sometime in February to talk to them about the programs they have and other things. And we were told they were planning a trip to the state capital in April 30th. So currently we are looking for 5 to 6 people that could commit some time to go make presentations to the students, talk to them about what happens in the building, what goes on in the capital and other stuff. So if you are interested, please let me know and I'll be working on the report.
Is there any questions for Senator Sampson? I see none. Thank you. Senator O'Carroll.
Hi everyone, my name is Senator O'Carroll. I'm one of the senators from Social and Behavioral Sciences. So for my report, for the college, we have worked on talking about working towards a communications officer. Right now we're in the process of having interviews and having applications out for someone who could be a possible communications officer for that college. We also have been working on a survey that would help students give us feedback and information as to what changes they'd like to have within the several majors within the college. And for my committee, SHAC, we have been talking about international student health insurance plans. We'll be talking about getting more information as to how we can let students, incoming students for the next academic year, get more information as to what their health insurance plan cover, what they have available, how they could also have access to student health services also. Yeah, and that's basically what I've been working on. I understand the questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Senator Landis.
Good afternoon. My name is William Landis. I'm a graduate studies senator representing the constituency of graduate students here at Minnesota State University in Mankato. people in this room will not be surprised to know that a lot of my time this semester has been spent on looking over budgets. And so with that wrapping up, I'm very pleased as a graduate studies senator that this body in our meeting during the student allocation fee allocations has decided to support the, we publicly discussed and ultimately decided to support the funding of conference travel and professional development for 2 specifically graduate assistants in the adventure education program. My hope is that this precedent that has been set will encourage other areas of campus, staff-funded or potentially the hundreds of graduate assistants who are not staff-funded, to look into that type of funding for their own graduate assistants to see if we are able to return the type of benefit that the AEP returns with their GH, and ultimately help things become more competitive for our graduate assistantships, as well as more desirable to have the graduate assistants competing for staff-funded graduate assistants. So I think that was a huge win that we had. This ties in with the graduate enrollment management plan and graduate assistant plan, or GAMGAP for short. As a committee, there's an ad hoc monitoring committee that is set to meet in the coming weeks to monitor progress of that report. If you're not familiar with that, that was Katrina Kronk and Lori Hebert presented on that in the fall, as well as Dean Joinoff. The current graduate studies senators have been invited to be part of that monitoring group, and we'll be delivering some more updates on that in the coming month. Finally, another issue that I've been working on all year is food and housing security. I do have some wins and updates on that front. Some wins this semester: 3,500 pounds of food were distributed at our free farmers market in the CSU early this semester. Tara Katie, a national speaker on food resources on and around college campuses, has been invited to come speak at our campus in mid-April, April 15th and 16th. So we can look out for that. In addition, brand new thing, Associate Director of Development William Broussard has been in touch with someone that is a program called Swipe Out Hunger. There's been other student and faculty interest in bringing this type of program to our school. Currently we are in talks and we're trying to lay some groundwork to potentially have a student supporting students type of program that can help address food insecurity. With these type of wins and with kind of the range of where these are coming from and who's thinking about them, I think that there's a distinct need. So this is what I'd like to end my Senate report with. I think there's a distinct need for us as a student government to establish a new committee in food and housing security for the coming years. Thus far this year, a lot of these updates and the people working on it have been coming together in a more robust way than they have in the past. But as far as getting student involvement and engagement, I do think that a consistent, coordinated committee would be beneficial for tackling this very complex issue that we're facing here on campus. And so in the next coming meetings, I do intend to propose that, I don't really know exactly how that functionally gets done, but I'm going to find out, and we're going to see it on our agenda in the next couple of weeks. And I do encourage you to support, however we can, the implementation and establishment of a new committee focused on this for years to come. I'll stand for questions.
Senator Hoysen?
What other student groups do you think you could reach out to that on campus that would be in support of being like a part of the committee?
Yeah, so there are several student groups who have already had support this year. So SDNO is Leanna Boyd. We can talk a lot more about them. She's the president. Health Pros, we have several Health Pros in the room right now, have worked on this. There's several other organizations, students that are involved with the Community Engagement Office, thing where we have someone else. There we go, there's Senator Mitchell. We can talk more about some of the contributions made there. There are a lot of different student organizations as well as faculty and staff members who are looking at this issue. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now move on to Senator Moy.
Oh, good evening, everyone. So yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank you, all of the student leaders who, stepped in to improve the students' lives. And then I'd like to thank all of those people who came here to, like to help us to make a better decision or to make this campus a better place. So today I have a couple of updates about the reflection rooms. So today, not today, so it's like a couple of weeks before I talked with David Jones to make the reflection room because it's been an issue for a couple of years. So he suggested that as we don't have the space right now to make it at CSU, so he referred me to the Paul Confer, who is the Assistant Vice President of the Facilities Management. And then I discussed with him that, there is a space like New Armstrong Hall. So they have a space, 14,150 square foot for the student activities, but that's not really related with the reflection room. So I requested like 300 to 500 square foot, to be allocated for the reflection room. So to do that, what we have to do is that he said that design is submitted, but it can be re-evaluated. And to re-evaluate it, I just talked with my executive like Mimi and Anissa, and we are still having plans with this, like how we proceed on that. So in conclusion, hopefully if that re-evaluates, then we'll have a reflection space in New Armstrong Hall at 2024. Yep, that's my update. So if you have any questions, please.
Any questions? Thank you. Senator Schmidt.
Hi everyone. So I have an update about art and the performing arts, like I have been since the beginning. I talked with the dean and both chairs, and I have been given the go-ahead to do art installations in the basement. So now all I have to do is talk with the art department and see if there's anybody that would like to participate in that. So by next year we should have new art in the basement so it doesn't look like a dungeon. So yeah. And lastly, next year we will be hosting a music festival that I am the student chair for. So, and then if I have any more updates or if I need any help, I will let you guys know as soon as I know anything.
Any questions? Thank you. Senator Medina.
Hi guys, I'm Senator Teresa Redinas. I'm a Res Life Senator. So I've just been super busy with helping my floor do events. We just did a picture frame one. We're still working on the security one. If you guys remember, I've been working on that. So I am working with my CA on that. It's just been a little behind. She's been a little busy. And then I'm still working with Sandy, and we're talking about the app, and we know that the university is already working on an app, so we're going to keep working on that, try and get that done. That's something I think would be really valuable to the school, and work on seeing what we can do, talk to the president, talk to the vice president, and then just keep going with that. That's my update. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Senator Garton's up next.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. I'm one of the off-campus senators, and as many of you know, I've been working on the off-campus housing recommendations for snow removal and sidewalks. So I have passed out the forms that are currently the recommendations. I've talked with a few constituents and a few other senators, and we felt that this was the best route to go with some help creating some of these ideas. So the first one is to begin treating sidewalks and roads prior to 8 a.m. due to classes beginning at 8 a.m. at Minnesota State University Mankato.
Notify residents 24 to 48 hours in advance of snow emergency via text message, phone call, email, social media, and/or flyers. Inform residents of available parking locations during the snow emergencies. Create a program where residents are able to clear sidewalks with shovels supplied by the office for an incentive. As many of you know, Highland already does this. It's one of the things I talked about last semester. And then lastly, partner with Minnesota State University Mankato and City of Mankato to develop student-friendly programming, such as during snow emergencies, allowing resident vehicles to park in underutilized lots. So if anybody has other recommendations, I'm totally up to them. On Monday, I did go to Mankato City Council and I did bring this forward to them during their open forum. They didn't have much to say as the off-campus housings are private owned, but they did say, the city manager did say that he was going to send someone to investigate some of the off-campus housing due to safety reasons. For instance, if there's a fire in one of the apartments and residents need to leave the apartment and it's still icy, that's a very big safety hazard, so hopefully they'll get that fixed. And then tomorrow I am going to meet with Student Affairs and bring this also forward to them to talk to them about it. So for that, I will stand for questions.
Any questions? Thank you. So we will now be moving on to our speaker vacancy. Is there anyone else going for the speaker election? Okay, demo. All right, perfect. So it's going to be 1 minute opening. We're going to open the floor for questions, and then you have 1 minute closing. So you can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. Most of you guys know me. My name is Emma Zellmer. I am currently a Res Life Senator, but I am running for Speaker because I think I know that I have the skill set necessary for the job, and I do believe that I would be able to help Senate achieve what we want to achieve for the rest of the meetings, and I know that I can help with any issues that we currently see going on in meetings. So just a little bit about my history as a presiding officer or the Speaker. I was in congressional debate in high school where I presided over hundreds of Congress rounds, which are a lot easier than these because this is not a competitive setting. Beyond that, I was also the presiding officer in a national semifinal round at the National Speech and Debate Tournament. I was elected as the presiding officer for one of the sessions, as well as ranked as the highest presiding officer for that round specifically. What I can do for Senate, the reason that the Speaker is elected by the Senate is because the Speaker helps serve the Senate. The Speaker makes sure that the Senate's meetings run quickly and that everyone's voice is heard equally. So a few issues that I've seen throughout my almost full year in Senate is, although many of us understand motions, a lot of people who came in through vacancies aren't fully aware of the motions, how to use them, and what they mean. How I plan to help with that, although I know many people have motion sheets, I plan to hand out another one for mostly used ones, a better description of what they mean and how to use them correctly. And I hope that many senators would refer to those when using motions or when a motion is said that they do not understand. Beyond that, whenever a motion is made, I plan to briefly explain it before we move in so then there's no questions or confusion about what's happening, and that'll help the meetings run faster, and also everyone will be on the same page so there will be no misinformed votes. Beyond that, one thing that I think we're also missing, although we won't see much of this before the end of the year, is speaker time notifications. Such as with vacancies, how Vice President Omar just gave me a notification how much is left of my speaking time. Since we do have many senator reports coming up, I hope to give speaker signals to make sure everyone is using their time wisely. And with that, I stand open for questions.
Any questions for Senator Zellmer? All right, we'll begin with your closing.
Awesome. Okay, so how I can fill all the needs of the speaker role. Since Vice President Omar has stepped into the acting speaker role, I've been able to help her and be by her side if she needed any help. As you guys can see, I've been sitting next to her during the meetings. Last meeting, which was another budget meeting that had a lot of speaker roles, I tried to help as much as I could. It was kind of like a game of telephone, which was a little difficult, as many people saw, but I've been trying to help her learn the motions and be able to run meetings smoothly. I've also been able to get her advice on how to plan agendas, as well as working with speaker correspondence. And I hope to be able to do that in the future as I step into the role, so I am very prepared to come into it with only a few weeks remaining. With that, the speaker also needs to know the Constitution. As a part of the Constitution Commission, I carry the Constitution on me at all times, and I feel as though I have a very good understanding of what's in it and what it means. And beyond that, the speaker needs to be unbiased. Although during Senate meetings I am very outspoken, I do understand that the role needs to be unbiased, and I do know when to step back from my time in congressional debate. Even if you are biased, you can't speak as the speaker, and I know that I have that, I guess you could say, self-control, as well as I have the professionalism to be able to fill this role. So I hope you will all consider me for speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead. Okay, we'll now open up the floor for discussion. Is there any? President Cronin?
I think Emma has been doing a really good job good job over the last few weeks, aiding, which was not ever asked of her, to help the exec members with just running the meetings, and like she had mentioned, the speaker's correspondence, and I think she has a lot of background in that type of position, so I think she would be a great addition for the last few weeks of the Senate, and I think she could really, help keep the meetings together and keep us on track for these last 3 or 4 meetings that we have. So.
Senator Rodinez.
I just want to say, I agree with everything President Cronin said, and also that I think she brings a lot of ideas of her motions and how to help us all better understand and be efficient in these. So I think she'd be a really good speaker.
Senator Moy.
I think that she would be a really great candidate, and I also really like that she brought up efficiency, because I don't know about you, but I like to get as much done as possible in the smallest amount of time, so I think that would be very beneficial.
Is there any other points anybody would like to add? All right, so you guys can just rip a piece of paper out, and then you guys can vote, and we'll come around. John and I will collect it.
I'll get this side done after Vice President.
Oh, John.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll watch this side. I will not watch that.
She took mine. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know.
What name is there? I don't
So we do have the results, and prior to swearing you in, do you resign from your Res Life Senator seat?
Sure, yeah.
So you can hold your right hand up and we'll. Oh, congratulations. Okay, so I state your name.
I, Emma Zalmer,
Will represent and serve the students of Minnesota State University.
the students of Minnesota State University
In their student academic life.
in student academic life.
And their student academic life needs, I apologize.
Oh, in their student and academic life needs.
And their, I will uphold the Constitution and the bylaws of the student government.
I will uphold the Constitution and the bylaws of the student government.
I so affirm.
I so affirm.
Congratulations. At this time, we now have a vacancy for our Res Life Senator, as well as our Arts and Humanities seat. So, when is that election? Oh, in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Now I'm gonna move on. We're just gonna
Bang the gavel.
One more time.
Yeah, one more time.
dismissed herself.
Yes.
I'll just rep as like for one more day. It's okay.
Cross it out now.
I should cross it out. We really just gotta get it. I think. David's getting a new power. Okay, so hi you guys. I'm just gonna get this back into order. So I was made aware of a situation. Some of these bylaws are not correct, so we are working on getting the correct copy for all of you guys. Some of the lines were removed in between, so I'm just gonna yield to Andrew Trenny to explain some of them before we have the correct copies, if we want to do that.
Yeah, alright, with your permission, can we move to number 2? Because number 1 is missing some information on it. So number 2 is just, we changed one word from shall to may, and that's your stipend. Basically, it says that basically you don't have to have your stipend if you don't want it. You choose to have it, and yeah, we just left it up to you guys. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions about it? Is that
a problem since we cut it in the budget?
Yeah. You can amend it.
That's for everybody though, right?
Yeah.
So
Just the
executives
senators.
can.
Just the senators.
Yep, and for speakers list, please raise your placard before speaking.
It's the bolded word on number 2. It says may. Each senator may be compensated up to 200 and 100 each or each semester. So.
Any other questions?
Do executives have the ability to not get their stipend too? If they don't want it?
I mean, past tradition, yes, but nothing says that they have to take it. That goes for anybody. You don't have to take it.
Okay, then why are we changing it?
President Cronin?
So just to clarify, Andrew, the petition or the bylaw amendment is because in the budget meeting, there is no money next year to pay senators. So this amendment to say may be compensated is just a way so that way next year we don't have any money. But in the future, if the Senate decides that senator stipends are worthy of the student fee, then it could be easily put back in and there wouldn't need to be a bylaw change. So this bylaw change just gives the ability to pay senators or not pay senators.
Senator Mooney?
Yes, so I'd like to address that one, like what happened, like we saw that there were budget, like we had more money, like we allocated, I guess, 5,000, even though it wasn't like for all the senators, you know, like, for example, someone resigns or like someone just fires, but it's not the exact word, but if someone signs off, means resigns. So what happens, like there is an excess amount of budget over there, so that's why we put it in, maybe.
Was that a question to like what happens with money that isn't given to senators?
Senator Mooney?
Can you say it again?
Was that a question or were you just making a statement?
No, clarifying.
Oh.
Like
yeah.
why it should be maybe you just put it there.
Yes.
Are there any other questions for Andrew Trenny? If not, we can move in. Oh, okay. If not, we will now move into discussion on this bylaw. Oh, we have one more. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm just, as far as this may, who makes that decision? Because I'm just imagining a situation where in the future there isn't budgeted money. A senator reads their constitution, sees that they might be paid, and is like, "Where's my money?" Like, at what point? Where do we have in here how that decision is being made? Who ultimately makes that decision?
Can I yield to David? Yeah, he can explain.
I'm on the Constitution Commission, but on your web page you also have a link to your Senate budget, and you can see what he's talking about. Next year, probably there is no money for the $200, but in the past, you've had 30 senators. If they all stayed and there was no vacancy, that's $6,000. But historically, there's never been a situation where $6,000 was ever fully spent. That's back to Senator Moyne's point, that probably, maybe 4,000 of the 6,000 has ever really been spent. So how much you cut out of your budget several weeks ago, how much did you cut? Did you trim it did you trim it 6 or did you trim it 5?
I believe we
Trim
trimmed it
3? 5. Well, let's say that there's some savings. But certainly the next year you could budget for it at a $5,000 or a $6,000 level. Maybe I didn't answer the question. What was the question?
Yeah, so my question is, on whose authority does the senator may or may not get paid?
You have a budget committee, a Senate budget committee that has not convened. It certainly could look at that 108 or 9,000 that was approved and decide whether or not you wanted to remix the pot if there are any savings. Let's say that Amber, for whatever reason, left the stage, or there are savings on the part of the student body president who may have disappeared. There's savings. That budget committee could convene and say, you know, we have savings this year, so we're going to try to implement the bylaw. But the bylaw cannot be implemented without any money, obviously. So the budget committee, if it convenes next year, would be the one that would decide, it seems to me, whether or not there's any savings that could be channeled into some of this $100 per semester. But it would be an unusual Senate where you have the entire $6,000 liability spent in one 12-month period. Just it hasn't happened. Too much turnover.
Senator Dahl?
Essentially what we're saying is just, you know, if a senator does want their $100, it's up to the budget, and if we did it the year before.
Well, I think the answer right away is no, there's no money.
Exactly.
But again, if some of these other things happen and savings accumulated, then the budget committee could convene, make a recommendation to the Senate that, hey, by the way, manna from heaven has occurred, there's money, and we'd like to reinstitute the $100 per semester fee or stipend.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, seeing no more questions, thank you, Andrew Trenning. We will now move into discussion on this bylaw. Is there any discussion on this bylaw? Is there any discussion? Senator Whiteside.
Yeah, she forgot her placard. I think since we voted during the budget meeting to not have student stipends, then we should not vote for this and instead create a motion where a bylaw amendment where it says that we're not going to have we're not going to have the senators be compensated, because I think that this will just lead to confusion later on, like Senator Lennis pointed out, where someone's going to look and be like, what does this mean? And they're not going to have someone here who was in part of this Senate session understand that we decided as a Senate we don't want that. If they want to end up getting compensated later, then they can just make another bylaw.
John?
I can just provide clarification. The reason for this is to allow for that flexibility, because say next year the Senate again wants to request the money for the senator stipends, there's no point in doing it since your bylaws say there's no stipend. So that's kind of where we're looking on the flip side of this is, by this change that's being made, it allows you, because right now the way the bylaws are, if you don't change them, even though the money's not there, you gotta pay them. That's how it is according to the bylaws right now. Even though y'all cut the budget for senator stipends, you still gotta pay them right now without changing the bylaw. Okay? If you change it to no stipend, then that takes away the flexibility for next year's leadership to ask for it in the budget again, without changing the bylaws again. So this allows for that flexibility. Dave was right in that the main determinant here is whether or not you vote the budget for it. That's the main determinant. So that's kind of where this flexibility is probably the best idea at this point, because you said no, there's no money there, but as it is written right now, you gotta pay your senators next year. That money's gonna have to come from somewhere else. Okay? So that's just clarifying a little bit. So I'm not advocating for one way or the other, but not changing it, you're gonna have to find the money elsewhere in the budget. Changing it, you say either no from here on, or you allow the flexibility.
Senator Garden?
I agree with the current bylaw, because what John just said, like if Senate does choose to give that money back to the senators, then it's in the bylaw to be there.
Is there any other discussion? Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Last chance. Okay, seeing no more discussion, we will now move into a vote. John, would you like to do this by placard, or would you like to do it placard? Okay, so if you are in favor of passing this bylaw, please raise your placard now. If you are opposed to passing this bylaw, please raise your placard. And if you are abstaining, any abstentions? Seeing none, this bylaw does pass 24 to 1 to 0. Oh, that was very loud. Sorry, guys.
Will be a run on the bank now, is that?
So that one does pass. We'll now have Andrew Trenny speak again on the first one, since this just got handed out.
Yep, so this one is, it's this very long sheet of paper, like this.
It's called minutes.
Minutes, yeah. Thanks. So the only thing we're changing is this thing, or we're adding in red and anything underlined, correct? Yeah, underlined. It basically would say that Ethics and Standards has the power to petition the Senate to remove a senator. Before, previously, they did not have that power. So basically we're granting them the power to say as a committee, like, hey, the senator hasn't shown up or hasn't done their duties or whatever, and that they're petitioning for now you guys to hear the case and remove the senator, if so. So yeah, any questions?
Are there any questions? Any questions? Senator Landis?
So just to clarify, this addition is saying that the Ethics and Standards Committee can bring to Senate a proposal for removal. They cannot themselves remove someone.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Any more questions? John?
I don't have this in front of me right now at this moment. Does it specify by what kind of two-thirds of the country?
The Senate two-thirds.
Okay, got it. Great.
Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Oh, Senator Pospisil?
Okay, so is this altering the removal, which is a percentage of your constituency? It is.
Yes.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
It's not altering, it's giving another possibility. So you could still go forward with 250 signatures from your constituency or percentile, or this could be another avenue.
Okay, so they could be removed by student senate as opposed.
Yes, it would create a petition that would go forward to the student senate that would need to be voted by 2/3 of the senators.
Okay, so it's not replacing it, it's just, okay.
Another avenue.
There, any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Senator Hoyseth?
Would this, so if Ethics and Standards would come and present, would it then lead into an automatic vote, or would someone have to create a motion for vote?
That's really at the discretion of the speaker, but yes and no. Like, you could have a discussion on it. That person would be able to defend themselves, and then you guys would move into vote that way.
John?
A valid petition must be entertained and acted upon.
So it's not
And so this would be considered a valid petition.
Yep.
So then the Senate would act upon it and people would pass down their own petition.
So it does cause a vote.
Yes. There would be a discussion on it, but it would cause the vote to happen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Senator Garden?
What part of the agenda would this be put in?
New business?
Yeah.
Old business? Fine.
New business?
Yeah.
It's honestly still, that's like, that question to me is more so up to the speaker, where they would put it.
Any more questions? Any more questions? Last chance. Seeing no more questions, thank you, Andrew. We will now move into discussion. The speakers list is now open. Is there any discussion on this bylaw? Senator Moy.
I agree with this, and I think it's very valid to add to the bylaws, simply because, take for example, if a senator is elected mid-semester and they're not receiving a stipend, currently Ethics and Standards can take away that stipend, but if there's nothing to take away, what exactly are they, then it's just a slap on the wrist. There's nothing that you can take away from Ethics and Standards point of view, so if you're not already receiving a stipend, they can't take that away from you, so then it really kind of defeats their job. So this just gives them the ability to basically give you a consequence for your behavior.
Senator Dahlk?
I agree with Senator Moy in terms of, if someone's not doing their duties for their constituents or whoever they represent, I think this is a great way to get them out of the Senate if they're not being a team with all of us and they're not agreeing with us, or they might be causing some issues or whatever there may be in the future. I think this is a great way to possibly get rid of someone that could be per se cancer to our student senate. So,
Senator Garden.
I also agree with this bylaw due to the fact that it is being brought to the Senate, so it's not just ethics and standards being able to remove someone. It has to be brought to the Senate and be passed by a 2/3 vote. And most likely, as senators, we will have seen the fact that these senators have not been doing their job or are not achieving their office hours or coming to meetings. So I agree.
Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? Last chance. Seeing no more discussion, we will now move into a vote on this bylaw. If you are in favor of passing this bylaw, please raise your placard. If you are opposed, please raise your placard. And if you are abstaining, seeing none, this bylaw passes 25-0. I'll tap this a little lighter. We will now move into the final bylaw in which Andrew Trini will speak again.
So I would turn to this last page in a minute. You can see more clearly the changes to this bylaw. It basically establishes, it splits academic affairs and the MAB textbook coordinator, and it would create two positions, it would create a new position separate from the academic affairs coordinator that would oversee the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program, and that is the bylaw.
So are there any questions? Any questions, Senator? Adediji. Perfect. Sorry, you guys are just going to need to help me with names.
Will this coordinator be paid?
Paid? I think that's in a bylaw that is listed where coordinators are paid. So if you want to make it paid, it would have to go through that.
Senator Garten?
How was this bylaw came to be created?
It came to come because, for those of you who have been here forever, my first senator's report was on the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program, and just with getting my hands into that program, I realized how big of a job it actually was. And through me working with the late academic affairs coordinator, we just realized that it should be its own job completely and not tied in with the academic affairs coordinator role, just because there just was so much involved with it.
So are there any more questions? Any more questions on DG?
Given that we already passed the budget for the next Senate, and which includes, I think, 3 coordinators, where do you think you're going to get the money to pay this coordinator?
It doesn't have to be paid.
It doesn't have to.
Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Senator.
Yeah, I'd like to use this to David for the book coordinator position, like whether it would be paid or not. What you discussed on that?
Well, Andrew, Chairman of the Constitution Commission, Andrew Trini, is absolutely correct. There is no money. There is no money. There is no money. So there will be no payment. Maybe in the future, Madam Speaker, there might be money. There could be money. Perhaps there would be money. That's all I know.
So are there any more questions about the bylaw? Any more questions? Any more questions? Seeing no questions, thank you, Constitution Commission. We will now open discussion on this bylaw. Is there any discussion? President Cronin.
So when I look at the roles of coordinators on the President's Cabinet, I know someone had mentioned that 3 positions are paid on the Cabinet. And those positions are Academic Affairs Coordinator, Student Affairs Coordinator, and PR Committee Chair. So really, student government only has 2 coordinators. It's Academic Affairs and Student Affairs, whereas Diversity, PR, and Legislative all have committee chairs. So I think the raising of the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program to have a coordinator, I don't think that it has the potential or the justification to be raised that high, because Maverick textbooks isn't in the same light of, whereas these coordinators focus on all academic affairs issues and all student affairs issues, I don't see how Maverick Textbook Reserve is something similar to be a coordinator. Maybe there should be a petition or an amendment to the bylaws creating a Maverick Textbook Reserve Committee and having a committee chair, or having a Maverick Textbook Liaison Committee member in the Academic Affairs Committee, but I don't think that it should be a coordinator position. And I know in the past there used to be a Maverick Textbook Coordinator, and then a Senate removed it because they did not see the purpose or the extent of it needing to be that high. Because when I look at the President's Cabinet, I don't think that a Maverick Textbook Coordinator would belong on that cabinet or would need to be attending our bi-weekly meetings. I don't really know what that coordinator position would have to work on every single other week or would need to be at that high of a position. I do recognize the importance of the textbook reserve and all of the work that goes into it, but I don't think that it would be at the level of a coordinator.
Would you like to do that as an amendment?
Yeah, what did you want to say?
Well, I'm going to go Senator Erickson first. But
I have thought a lot about what role this new position should take up, where it should be changed in the bylaws, and just with everything that I've done with it, I really have been working on this at least 3 times a week. I'm in contact with the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program in some way or another. So I do feel like that they would have something to bring to the table every week, whether that be showing the statistics on the program, so we all know up front, hey, what is going on? As a student government, the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program is under us. We're in charge of that money. So if any of you have seen the budget for it, it's a lot of money. And it's supposed to be funding this program that is supposed to help all of our constituents. And so I really do think that this is a program that needs to be held at that level. Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's something that there has to be a discussion on something. Every week I meet with Janine at least bi-weekly to discuss certain topics on the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program or other people involved with it. Yeah, I yield my time.
Vice President Omar? I was thinking maybe we could have an academic senator within academic affairs take control of the MAV Reserve textbook, or have a liaison, as President Cronin said. I'd be in full support of that. Is there any way I can make an amendment to it?
Yep. So the amendment is, if you could just repeat the amendment and you can write it down.
Is to have an academic senator or a liaison for
A Maverick Textbook Reserve Liaison permanent position.
Awesome.
In the academic.
Is there a second?
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. So there's a second. So now we will open up discussion on the amendment, which is to have a textbook reserve liaison. So now I will open discussion on the amendment. Senator Lundas, sorry.
I just have a question about, and maybe Kayla can answer this best, or maybe someone else can. I'm not sure. What is the position now? Like, how, we're talking about differences between liaisons and chairs and coordinators. How does the Maverick Reserve Program function now? Like, what's your role?
So right now, it's underneath the Academic Affairs Coordinator. It's underneath their description that they're in charge of this. So our Academic Affairs Coordinator, along with doing all their academic affairs meetings and all their stuff, also is completely in charge of the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program.
So,
Senator Erickson?
As I've stated before, I don't think that this should just be a liaison. As a coordinator, it can be anyone. It can be someone in Senate from academic affairs, student affairs, or it can just be someone coming in who has a deep interest and passion for the Maverick Textbook Reserve Program, whether that be someone who works at the library, who works in Barnes & Noble, or just really cares about students' books. So I do not think that this should be a liaison position for an academic affairs senator to take on. I feel like this should be a coordinator position.
Senator Chaiti?
Yes, I agree with Senator Erickson, because it's not just the coordinator. That person needs to contact with all of the faculty members to get to know the list of the book, because if they don't contact with the faculty members, we won't be able to know what book the student they needed. So that's why it's a specific one person, that he or she can be senator or the regular student, but that person needs to work on that position rather than involved with other things. So that's why
Senator-
we agreed that we need a coordinator for that.
Senator Dahl?
Can I yield to Mimi or Anissa regarding why you're thinking about why it should be just a liaison instead of a coordinator? Is it because of the biweekly meetings and whatnot, or what's the reasoning for this amendment? What's the problem with having a coordinator?
I just think that the position of coordinator is a position that is held to a higher standard. Like I mentioned, our two current coordinators are student affairs and academic affairs. If we're going to make a Maverick textbook reserve coordinator, should we make a coordinator for our enterprise, for our student attorney? Because these are also, you know, services that student government offers. And so I'm not saying that the liaison has to be a senator. The liaison can be anyone from the bookstore. They can be someone passionate about the reserve program. They can be a senator. They can be a student. I just think that, like was mentioned, it is a responsibility from the academic affairs coordinator, which for many years may have been something that they might have forgotten about or wasn't their biggest priority. So by creating a specific role within academic affairs of saying this is an individual who will be appointed or elected by the academic affairs committee to be the liaison, to be that representative of the Maverick textbook or reserve program, is the correct level that it should be at, as well as it's a higher level than just saying like, oh, academic affairs will work with it. It gives them a specific role and gives them a specific title to do that work. And I just don't think that the coordinator level is something that should be that high for this program. Because like I mentioned, PR, diversity, and legislative affairs do not have coordinators, they are committee chairs. So if that would be a different option of creating a permanent Maverick textbook reserve committee and having a committee chair, I think that would make more sense than making a coordinator. I yield.
Thank you.
Nice. I'll yield the floor. Okay. Okay. Are there any other people that want to get on the speakers list for the amendment? Anyone else discussion on the amendment? Senator Erickson?
And I'd just like to say one final thing, that this is something I've been working on for my entire time in Senate. I've thought long and hard about it. I've had many discussions with people. I feel like I've said everything that I can say on this. Yeah, I just really truly believe that this should be a coordinator position and not just a liaison or a chair.
Senator Christensen?
Awesome, thank you. So kind of going off from that, as many of you know, Kayla and I or Senator Erickson and I are pretty darn close, so we spend a lot of time together, and I can absolutely 1,000% tell you that she has worked so hard on whether or not this should even be an option. She put thought and effort and time into it. She talked to faculty members. She got opinions from not only senators, but also the constituents. So it wouldn't be brought forward if there wasn't support behind it. So, thank you.
Senator Landis?
So I wonder if, like, the issue here, like, there doesn't seem to me to be a functional difference. Whether or not the coordinator or liaison or, you know, whatever the title is, the amount of work that goes into it, I don't think that's in question. I think it's a matter of whether or not we elevate this position to this coordinator role, which but functionally isn't going to change how much work Senator Erickson's done or how much work a liaison might do. So I'm not. I guess my feeling is that we're kind of coming at this discussion from two different points. I think we can agree that it's a lot of work, but does a lot of work necessarily mean coordinator position? And I think the counter position is that, you know, you can do a lot of work in a lot of different things, but it doesn't necessarily require a coordinator. And I think that's what I'm hearing right now, at least.
Vice President Omar?
Going off of what Senator Landis said, I just feel as though we have tried this a few years ago and it did not work. That's why I'm full support of having a liaison rather than having a coordinator. We're not doubting the amount of work you have put into it, and we are very grateful for what you have done. But that is why I'm going to stand by my motion.
Senator Sampson?
I just wanted to ask a question to Senator Erickson. So for the coordinator position, like, is it just one person who is going to be called a coordinator, or are they going to like have a committee that is going to work toward it? Like, yeah, that's actually the question.
Yeah, if they were made to be a coordinator, they would have, I believe it says an 8-member committee in the bylaw. Because that's what follows then with the other committees, guidelines.
Senator Hoysa?
Yes, I did not know that. Then my question is, what, like, a committee of 8 people, like, what would they be doing every week in order to fulfill, like, 8 people?
I have a list. there's many things to be working on. One, meeting up with the different groups of faculty around the school to talk about different things like OERs, first aid program that also impact the Maverick Textbook Reserve program. Doing tabling at different events and orientations to advertise more about our Maverick Textbook Reserve program. Advertisement is a huge thing that we need to increase in our Maverick Textbook Reserve program. I just got the statistics last night saying that we only have 451 students utilizing our Maverick Textbook Reserve program this semester, and out of 14,000 students, that's not good. So advertisement's a huge thing. And just I have a huge transition report that I've already written with ideas for that committee and that coordinator to be working on.
Senator Gigi?
Given the fact that you're going to have a committee, I know this is a lot of work, but I think the best group of people that you have as resources for this committee would be academic senators. And I don't think there will be a need to have more people, because you're going to just have more meetings, and which is going to take a lot of time. You can take one senator from each college. They have good access to the faculty members, and this is the best resources you can get. I think it's just...
Sorry, continue.
I think it's just good to have that liaison who runs maybe a subcommittee in the academic affairs committee that's in charge of the math textbook.
Senator Carl, and the next is Senator Erickson.
Yeah, I guess for me it would just be to go off what Senator Adedeji said. Like it kind of takes off like some of the responsibility of like academic affairs committee. Like that means like the academic senators like really don't have much to do like at this point, because like this textbook program, like if you notice like at some of the meetings we have, because definitely we're an academic senator now, you would see like some people have like, you definitely ask questions like what suggestions you have for textbooks and all that. They do the work also. So if you're gonna take this and be like, oh yeah, we should have like a coordinator and form a committee, like how much of work are you gonna give the academic affairs committee? And also like just to go off what you said about like some of the stuff you have listed down for like people to do when you have a committee, I don't think it will be really, relevant if you have a lot of people. I feel like if you have one person who will be the liaison, could do that work. You have the first year seminar programs, which some of the academic senators work on. They could speak to the liaison who could give them information as to what the textbook program will be working on, and they could incorporate that into the first year seminar programs that we have. So that way you still promote information. You do not necessarily need to have that coordinator and then have like
Senator Erickson, and I am going to limit it to you can speak 3 times to a motion, and Senator Erickson, this is your 3rd time.
So going off of Bill's first point, now quite a few talks, speaker list back, as a coordinator position instead of just a liaison. I'm not talking about the work, but this is something, and I'll restate it, that us as a student government is involved in, and I feel like that they should be meeting with the cabinet about weekly, bi-weekly, because this is ours. We're in charge of it. I feel like in years past, we've not been putting our name, our stamp on it the way that we should be, whether that be giving book recommendations to the bookstore manager, Janine, or anything really with it, because as academic affairs coordinator and academic affairs senators, you're supposed to be having your own priorities. You're supposed to be meeting with your deans. You're supposed to be working on the projects that the academic affairs coordinator gives you. This was the project that I took up on myself, but I do a lot of other things with my college as well, meeting with my dean. But this is something where I feel like that the academic affairs meetings should not be focusing their entirety onto. And I don't think that this would be taking away from what they could be focusing on, because they are supposed to be focusing on academic affairs issues. So for this year, meeting with your dean, we went through all the policy changes, just those little stuff that you come up with in the academic affairs meeting to work on. So I don't think that would affect academic affairs at all, really. But this is something where we're in charge of it. This affects all of our constituents, and this is a huge sum of money that we should be meeting and talking about. I don't know off the top of my head when you guys meet with the coordinators if it's weekly or bi-weekly, But this is something that we should be talking about that often because of the chunk in sum of money that it is, and because of how important it is to our constituents.
President Cronin?
So a point that Senator O'Carroll brought up that I just thought made a lot of sense was that, like, if you were to create a second committee, which would happen if there was a coordinator, you know, you would just be doubling the work. Like, why would we have a committee that would focus all on this and stuff, and then at the same time, then you go to academic affairs and talk to them? Like, having the position stay within academic affairs, you know, utilizes the resources that are already there and the people who already have to serve there because they are a senator. So if you were to have to form another committee, you'd have to find all these other people when you already have that resource in academic affairs. Like, there's no reason we should create more work for ourselves. And so by keeping the position in academic affairs, which is a committee that is open to anyone to serve on, but required for the senators of academic positions, I just think it would make most sense to leave it there and keep it there, because then you've got people there who are required to be there, they're there for resources, and we don't have to double the work of Senate. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Any more discussion? Senator Chaiti?
I'll just explain one thing, that it's not that it has to be from Senate, but if we make a committee, that'll be really good for not only our Senate, it's gonna be all constitution, because all the books, like, we have a lot of major here, like, I don't know what's the total count, but we do not have, like, all the books in the library from each major. For example, for us, it's an IT book, it's really expensive, but yeah, when I talked to our bookstore manager, Janine, and she said, like, oh, no one didn't tell me about that book, or we didn't reach out that faculty member of IT. So if you think about the major, yeah, it's a lot of major, and if we have 1 or 2 person working on, and they divided that, like, oh, I will go to that faculty and talk about this, like, oh, what book you have, we can bring it, and our student will get help. So that's, if you think that point, yeah, I will, like, request that if we can have a committee with few people, that will help us.
Can you, it was asked if you were for a committee or coordinator.
I'll go with the coordinator.
Senator Hoysa?
I think that we can maybe tell from discussion that this might not pass when it goes to, I mean, that the amendment will pass, but that the coordinator position might not pass. I would encourage, like, the coordinator position then next year to, like, show, like, that this would be able to fill up enough of people's time, because I do think we should acknowledge the fact that textbooks are a huge problem at this university, and textbooks are too expensive for our students. They do not need to be paying $800 for a book that they use every single year that I don't need after next year. And the Maverick Textbook Reserve is the solution to that problem. And so I think that there should be a committee for it, because I think that my constituents care a lot about being able to rent and have their textbooks for a much lower cost. And so I would encourage you to think about, you know, like, how big of that issue is, and that it is a problem. That I think it would be awesome if Student Senate could be like, we see the problem with textbook prices and we are addressing it head on with this committee.
Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion on the amendment? Any more discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we are now going to be going to a vote on the amendment. This will be to change the bylaw to have this amendment included in it, so it will no longer be a coordinator, it will be a liaison instead. So all in favor of this amendment passing, which will make it a liaison, please raise your placard. All opposed? Nine. And any abstaining? This amendment will, John, I need 2/3 for this, correct? Nope, I just need a majority. This will pass then with a vote of 15 to 9 to 1. So now we will be moving back to discussion on the bylaw, which will now have the amendment included. So now the bylaw will state, instead of a coordinator, it will have a liaison. Is there any discussion on the bylaw? Any discussion on the bylaw? John?
I'm guessing this needs to be worked out because the proposed amendment includes deleting language from the President's Cabinet, the Academic Affairs Coordinator shall create a new article, Student Government's President's Cabinet. So you're totally redoing a lot of the wording in this amendment by making this change. So that might need to be ironed out. So we've got the intent here. I don't know if you want to table and reword and come back and vote, or if somebody can put together the wording that's actually going to make sense quickly enough.
as speaker, just a comment, I do think I would agree that tabling would be a good idea. Does anyone have a motion to table this, Senator Martinez? There we go. So is there a second to tabling it?
Until next week.
Until next
It
week.
needs to be specified.
Yep. President Cronin has seconded. We will now move to a vote to table it. All in favor of tabling this discussion until next week? Seeing a clear majority, we will table this until next week. Moving on, we will now move into new business, and we need a motion to approve the tech fee priorities for fiscal year 2020. Oh, the motion is, and you can read it on the agenda that was passed out originally. Whereas the appointed members of the Student Technology Fee Committee has met in compliance with Minnesota State Board Policy and Procedure 2.3.1, student involvement in discussion making, and 5.11.1, tuition and fees, subpart J, technology fee. Whereas the committee has learned about student and faculty use of technology throughout all aspects of the campus and has learned about all services that ITs provides. Whereas the committee has consulted with and collaborated with faculty representatives and IT representatives. Whereas technology is no longer a tool, it is an essential part of our student experience and effective learning. Whereas all students use and benefit from Minnesota State University Mankato technology. Whereas the committee has drafted a list of objectives for ITs and to accomplish in the next year. Whereas the list of objectives for fiscal year 2019 prepared by the 2019 Student Technology Fee Committee has been presented to the student government for feedback and review, whereas the 86th student government will consider these objectives a legacy for current and future Minnesota State University Mankato students. Be resolved, the 86th student government has been consulted by ITs regarding student technology fees and accepts the objectives for fiscal year 2020. Is there any dissent to this motion? Any dissent to this motion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Seeing none, this motion does pass. We will now move into announcements. Are there any announcements? President Cronin?
So just, what's the word? I don't know. The word I'm looking for. But, so one thing that wasn't on the agenda that I think a lot of people may have been expecting was the petition of recall for Melanie Ramsey from the positions of Ethics and Standards and Chair and Academic Affairs Coordinator, as there were enough signatures that were signed last week. Melanie has decided to resign from those positions and from the Senator position of Arts and Humanities, which is why there is that vacancy now. So I will be leading the Academic Affairs Coordinator or Academic Affairs meeting after this. So please be sure to be there at in the Senate office at the end of this meeting when we adjourn, and hopefully this time we can hold the meeting without being interrupted.
Senator Sampson?
If you haven't already checked the scholarships from Students United, please do so, because the deadline is April 1st. I encourage you all to look at them and apply.
Senator Hoysa?
Just a question for President Cronin. Are you going to be filling that position for the rest of the semester?
As of right now, we don't have someone that has been appointed yet, so I will be holding the meeting today. That will be something discussed during cabinet tomorrow, but there still will be the continuation of meetings to be held.
Thank you.
So.
Senator Garden, did you have an announcement? You yield? Okay, I have an announcement. I will be emailing out everybody what my office hours will be by the end of this week, just so we get that laid out, as well as if there's any questions about what you guys expect from me, any comments about what you guys would like to see me do, please email me or stop in and let me know, as well as I will be sending out what you guys can expect from me in meetings this coming week as well. John?
Lots going on this time of year. As always, I will remind you to focus on your legacy, what that's going to be looking like at the end of the year. So the next few weeks are going to go absolutely crazy. So we've got, remind anybody who's considering running for a Senate seat that their application for applying for that is this coming Tuesday. The application for anybody to apply for candidacy for president or vice president was yesterday. The candidate forum and the discussion about the student activity fee will take place next Wednesday. Okay, so that's there's a lot coming up in the next couple of weeks as we get ready to round things out. The inauguration of the next Senate will take place on the 17th, and And then you've seen the email requesting your thoughts about banquet dates, so please be sure to respond to that. So, on another more somber note, many of you had served on a previous Senate and knew that at the time Dr. Ginger Zert was serving as the Associate Vice President for Undergraduate Education, and she has left that role and returned to the faculty. And part of the reason for that was her husband, Jonathan, who was President and CEO of Greater Mankato Growth, our area economic development corporation. He was battling cancer, an aggressive cancer that unfortunately today took his life. And so Jonathan was a very influential person in the community, big business leader, and as we know, Ginger, Dr. Zert is a very influential and well-loved person on campus. So ask that you keep their family in your thoughts at this time. They're in this difficult time as they adjust to this new news that happened today. So sorry to be a downer, but I thought that some of you, especially who knew and worked with Dr. Ginger Zert closely, would appreciate it.
Are there any other announcements? Any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move into roll call. If I mispronounce your name, please correct me and sound it out for me. My weakness is names. So with that, we will go into Senator Bank.
Present.
Senator Erickson?
Here.
Senator Moy? Senator Schmidt?
Here.
Senator Adjiji?
Here.
Senator Owosu? Senator Andrade Lara? Senator Bejarano? Bejarano, okay. Senator Landis?
Here.
Senator Nowinski?
Here.
Senator O'Brady? Senator O'Brady? Senator Stilwell? Senator O'Caro?
Here.
Senator Christensen?
Here.
Senator Kinton?
Motion.
Senator Poshpischel? Did I get it? Awesome. Senator Chaiti? Here. Senator Sajal? Senator Dahl?
Here.
Here.
Okay. Senator Garden? Here. Senator Sampson?
Here.
Senator Moeen?
Here.
Senator Mitchell?
Here.
Senator Rye? Senator Zellmer's vacant. Senator Hoysa?
Here.
Senator Roebuck?
Here.
Senator Albright?
Here.
Senator Medina?
Here.
Speaker, I'm here. President Cronin?
Here.
Vice President Omar. Awesome. Thank you guys. And this meeting is adjourned at 5:24.
Student affairs, we're going to meet at 5:30.